Hello and welcome to this talk delivered at the Early Childhood Voices 2022 conference at Sturt University. My name is Elena Babatsouli. I am a faculty member, Ben Blanco Bors Endowed Professor in the Department of Communicative Disorders at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette in the United States. My presentation is titled Intentional Bilingualism in Exogenous Action, Learning from a Child. This work relates to the following United Nations Sustainable Development Goals: no poverty, good health and well-being, quality education, and reduced inequality. The outline of my presentation comprises the background to the study, its motivation, method, results, and conclusions, as well as implications for children and families and practitioners. In today's globalized society, where English is the main lingua franca, linguistic entrepreneurship is of great relevance in light of the commodification and added value that is attributed to English learning and its usage, and the role this plays in success scenarios, enhancing people's geographical and social mobility. A simple definition that is context-specific that I would like to propose here for linguistic entrepreneurship is the family policy that supports the naturalistic acquisition of a lingua franca at home, starting at an early age, including infancy. Such a linguistic enterprise gives rise to a specific type of child bilingualism that is exogenous in that the language acquired is not that of either parent, and thus a deliberate choice is being made in its usage. Also intentional. This assumes at least one parent's adequate competence in the second language, meaning fluency, and even past residency experience in the country where the language is spoken natively. Despite the rise of linguistic entrepreneurship as a family policy internationally, as the scanty evidence and word of mouth indicates, there is a dearth of information on the sociolinguistic and psycholinguistic profiles of such culturally and linguistically diverse bilinguals due to the unique aspects of language input and practice in these contexts in terms of both quality and quantity of exposure to the targeted language. Insights of the impact of such bilingualism on child emotional state, sociocultural identity, linguistic competence and attainment, subsequent language acquisition, and educational success are wanting, especially when tracing an individual child's path longitudinally. This investigation aims to address this gap by ascertaining some of the dynamics driving a child's psychological state, cultural identity, and sociolinguistic status in the context of intentional exogenous bilingualism, and to draw generalizable inferences for children at large regarding their well-being, language and literacy skills, and educational success from early childhood to pre-adulthood. The micro and macro sociolinguistic background of a girl's naturalistic acquisition of English as the lingua franca by exposure to maternal second language input from age 1 until age 4, alongside native Greek in Greece, is investigated in this study longitudinally. The child developmental language data in digital audio recordings of spontaneous speech interacting with the mother are phonetically and orthographically transcribed in a CLAN database of 511 transcript files. Maternal reports inform the child's bilingual naturalistic speech and sociolinguistic development between ages 2 years and 7 months and 4 years. Further, maternal reports trace the girl's sociocultural milieu between ages 4 and 16, focusing on home, societal, and educational scaffolding that leads to residency in the United States starting at age 13, as well as further multilingual competence involving Spanish as a third language in instruction with a second language speaker, teacher, and French as a fourth language in instruction with a native speaker, teacher. The results of the study highlight the behavioral, emotional, linguistic, sociocultural, and educational challenges that transpire in this early bilingual acquisition context. Behavioral, emotional, and language-related challenges are prevalent during the child's first 4 years when bilingual competence in English and Greek is being established. Maternal language practices start with one parent, one language until age 4, and evolve into one parent, two languages subsequently until the present day as a more felicitous alternative for both English and Greek speakers. There is no evidence of negative effects on the Greek language. At the age of 5, when kindergarten begins, the child becomes aware of the benefits that English usage entails, so early practices of avoidance of English, opposition to its usage, and veiling within the social context gradually dissipate. At the age of 12, the girl earns the proficiency certification of the European Framework of Reference for Languages 4 to 5 years earlier than for respective peers that are not raised bilingually. Her early simultaneous bilingualism shows typical developmental milestones, both positive and negative transfer, which, however, leads to balanced native-like use early on. And also by the age of 13, when US residency begins. The child immediately excels in the English-only educational context there. Social challenges are traced at the level of the Greek extended family in the form of tactful, unspoken disapproval, but also in evasive attitudes from native English speakers in the local community in Greece. The child is silent for a few weeks at the age of 2 years and 6 months when first introduced to Greek nursing school, where she was mistakenly diagnosed by the school counselor for selective mutism until she was reported by the mother as a bilingual child. English immersion begins at the age of 3 years and 6 months in a multicultural context where English is used with bilingual English-Greek peers and adult native English speakers. The child is first exposed to literacy in English, which also facilitates literacy in Greek, the more orthographically transparent language. Spanish is introduced at the age of 8, and fluency in Spanish is acquired by age 13. French is introduced at the age of 14, and fluency is acquired by the age of 16. French is accented, though Spanish is minimally so. The acquisition of cultural diversity is not problematic, whereby Greek is dominant, British American is strong, while Spanish and French related are weaker. Summing the child's multilingual competence, it is clear that English and Greek are balanced by the age of 16, though both Spanish learned in Greece and French learned in the United States were also languages acquired in exogenous settings. The child acquires fluency and literacy in them at the advanced placement level. In spite of native speaker immersion, French is the most foreign accented of all her languages due to typological differences of the language compared to Greek, English, and Spanish, and perhaps most importantly, due to its delayed onset compared to the other languages. The ultimate message is that the early sociocultural and linguistic challenges evidenced are natural and anticipated consequences of exogenous language acquisition, whereby the leading source of language input during the first 4 years of the child's life is non-native in nature. Intentional exogenous bilingualism not only leads to early bilingual competence in childhood, but also facilitates subsequent multilingual aptitude, fluency, and academic achievement. Reports like this on the encumbrances and successes of individual bilingual children's development longitudinally are insightful for determining the following: standards of beneficial family language and education policies, pitfalls to be avoided, myths about multilingual competence that still need to be rebuked, and context-specific parameters that characterize the psycholinguistic and sociolinguistic profiles of such bilinguals. These can be used in clinical and school settings to holistically evaluate and ultimately help enhance bilingual children's health and well-being in terms of social behavior, linguistic confidence and competence, literacy, and general educational success. It is important that information on the different contexts of child bilingualism that are possible is disseminated widely to families, teachers, clinicians, and the average individual around the world. Implications for children and families. You can reap the benefits of cultural and linguistic diversity by thinking outside the box of conventional societal norms as a vehicle for educational, social, and economic mobility. Implications for practitioners. Consider a family's social-linguistic context comprehensively and in the expanse of time to account for the differential impact of emotional state, cultural identity, parenting agency, family language policies, family education policies, and ambient language practices on multilingual aptitude and academic achievement. These are some of the references that I have used for this study. Thank you for your attention and your interest in this presentation. Please feel free to contact me at this email.